Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to be doing a header install on my 350Z. It's a 05, so it's a VQ35DE, it's not HR. Before we jump into this video, I'm going to be quickly talking about what kind of headers you should get and how to properly prep them. For the header type, the main reason people get headers is to maximize exhaust scavenging, which means that one cylinder firing helps pull the exhaust gases out of next cylinder, which means it can suck in more air and fuel, more power. You get the picture. I got Nismo headers. Headers is one thing I recommend not cheaping out on, because cheap headers tend to crack over time. But if headers crack, let's say normally they crack right around there on cheap headers, and if that happens, it's going to start introducing oxygen to your exhaust valve. And since your exhaust valve is already burning hot, you introduce oxygen to that, you're going to end up with burned valves. That's why cracked headers are very dangerous. So you don't want to cheap out on headers. These cost $1,100 brand new, but I got them for $350 used. Now these are shorty headers, and you can also get long tubes. Problem with long tubes is if you have them installed, you will not be able to put your catalytic converters back on if you have to smog your vehicle. So that's the main reason why I'm going with short tube headers. Long tube headers are better for higher up in the RPM, more horsepower up top. These should help out with mid to high-end torque. There's no really such thing as high-end torque, but high-end horsepower and mid-range torque, it should help out a lot. So now let's talk about what you need to do to prep them. Obviously, if you're gonna get them used, make sure they're all clean. No oil residue or anything on them at all, because that's a fire hazard. Even though most of the time they'll just burn off. And you have to get a straight edge, put it on there, get a feeler gauge, make sure there's no gap so it seats properly and it won't damage the exhaust gasket on the car. But if you're getting brand new headers, you're not really gonna have all those issues. But the main thing that I highly recommend to do on headers is get them heat wrapped. And there's several reasons for that, why you want to do that. Number one being obviously not a stock exhaust manifold. There's a reason why stock exhaust manifolds have a heat shield around them. That's for obviously safety reasons, because I don't know about you guys, but I do not want this car to burn to the ground. It's happened to my friend before and it really sucks. So yeah, that's for a safety reason. You want to heat wrap them. Second is, like I mentioned earlier about headers tending to crack over time. Second reason why you want to heat wrap is it's vibration control. Vibration is what tends to crack the headers in the first place, so it dampens out the vibrations, makes them last longer, so it's less prone to crack. Third reason is, especially on VQs, it's kind of important. It keeps the engine temperatures down, or not engine temperatures, engine bay temperatures down. So now I hear people always talking about how hard it is to install headers on these cars, which I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think I've figured out a way to do it pretty easily, which is by raising the car up, strapping the motor to like a crane, holding the motor up and dropping the front subframe down, which in my mind sounds the easiest. Subframes are not really that hard to drop. I've done plenty of them. I work on cars for a living, so I mean, it's not really all that tough to me anyways. So right now it is Friday night at around 8 o'clock. I'll get the car raised and prepped, but I won't actually start tearing it down till tomorrow morning. So it is now Saturday morning, and I switched to the GoPro so I can get a little bit more wider viewing angles. I had to improvise a little bit because my lights stopped working, so I'm using Christmas lights. It's actually not bad. It gives it a nice amber feel down here. Okay, so I'm going to be dropping the subframe down as originally planned, but before I do, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be taking off. It's going to be this control arm bolt right there, and the tension rod bolt, which is right there. I'm not too sure how that's going to come out, if it's a stud and then a bolt on top of that. That's what it looks like to me, so I got to figure that out. And then the steering rack, it's going to unbolt from the frame and stay up with the engine. Then I'm going to take this rear subframe off, and then I'm going to start dropping the main subframe down. I might even have to take the sway bar out. We'll see. But that's the game plan right now. So I'm not going to be recording all that because that's all just pretty basic stuff. I'm going to be just showing you guys the hard part. That's the whole purpose of this video. Okay, now I realize that everyone doesn't have that tool. That's an engine crane, not a conventional cherry picker type like that. That's for, so you can use the car strut towers itself to hold the engine up. Perks of working in a shop. So I realize that not everyone's gonna have that, but you can, if you don't have a cherry picker either, you can use just a normal floor jack and then put a wood block or something and stick it up to the engine oil pan. You can hold the engine up that way. So the plan is, let me get my flashlight out because this camera is not good in the dark. And let me increase the brightness. Okay. So the plan is to, like I said, hang the motor up from that and then start dropping the bottom subframe out of the car. So I'm going to be zip tying the steering rack to the engine. So the steering rack is going to stay. I'm going to undo the tension rod and this lower control arm. So that's all going to stay in the car. I'm only going to be dropping the subframe out. It calls for, according to our system at my work, it calls for 3 hours per side to change the exhaust manifold. And they want you to remove all the power steering stuff and everything in the front of the engine. They want you to take all this out, the radiator, everything has to be taken out. But I'm not going to do that. I think I found an easier way to do it. So we're going to be sticking with that. In my mind, that looks like the easiest way to do it. I'm just dropping the subframe out because there is very little room down there. I thought it'd be kind of a good amount of room, but there's a lot of room. So, and another thing I noticed, the engine fuel line runs right along there, right next to where the header will be sitting. Alright, subframe bolts are coming loose. Got the steering rack bolts loose. After he's done taking some brackets out of there, we're going to drop the subframe down.
Soppy is my side to loose.
Okay. Oh, that's the engine mount.
Anything?
Oh wow! My engine mount's broken. Oh dang! I didn't know that my engine mount's broken. All right, guys. So shut up! I'm trying to do a video. Shut up. So right now we're in the middle of trying to drop the engine mounts out. This mount, I don't think, this is the driver's side engine mount. I don't think this one has to be taken out. I got the heat shield off the stock manifold. That was pretty easy to take out. And I think I'm gonna start unbolting the header now. I gotta take the upper oxygen sensor out, the upstream oxygen sensor. He's trying to take that engine mount out. That one has to come out. But in order to take that out, he might have to take the alternator out, which I think he's doing right now. And yeah, from here is just pretty much unbolting the stock header. And then we can yank it out, throw the new one on. I had to take that AC compressor off. That gave me a lot more room right around the manifold. And then also took my stock air box off. Now I can kind of see everything from up here. Those bolts are going to be pretty easy to get to now. He almost has all his bolts off on that side. He didn't have to actually take the alternator out. So we're almost there. Not too bad. Right now it's about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We worked on it for about, I'd say, 5 to 6 hours total. We got both the headers off. And now I just got to prep it and then install it. Let me show you guys under here. So yeah, everything becomes a lot easier when you take the subframe down. I mean, it looks a mess, but it's really not. It's not that hard to put it back together. That's all the parts. That's my old manifold there, and that's my new one. And It's my idiot friends and his
Follow
cousin
me on
over
the
there.
gram, low_YGT.
Yeah. And if you guys want to see his car, it's out there. It's that Mustang that makes a whole bunch of noise but doesn't really go anywhere. And the other idiot wants to start his car remotely from here. So I quickly just wanted to show, I'm under the car right now. That's the passenger side of the engine. And those are fuel feed lines right there. Fuel feed and fuel return. Those two right there. I think that one's the feed line, and I think the rubber one above that, that one is the return line. So the headers are going to be about, I'd say, 1.5 to 2 inches away from them. So I just wanted to show you guys the importance of having it heat wrapped. Okay, so we have both the headers in. Tightening the bolts on them were kind of tough. There's not really a lot of room to get up in there. Can't really see anything because we have everything bolted up now. We are going to do a quick test start. Each of the individual cylinders kind of firing now. No leaks, nothing. Let's do a quick check. Like a leak. Does it? No leaks. No, I mean like fuel or something, not leaking. Everything good. Everything looks good. It sounds pretty decent. No leaks in the header. All right, right now it is Monday evening, around 7 o'clock. I just got home from work. I got the car done about yesterday around 6 o'clock. It's not fully done. I just got to put the front bumper back on. But this is just the end of the video. I'm gonna do a couple pulls. I already drove the car yesterday, and first of all, I'm not the type of guy to throw a cold air intake on a car and just go, oh yeah, that made a difference. I'm a little bit more realistic than that. But with this particular mod, I did feel a difference, mainly from like 3,500 RPM to about 6 grand. A lot more torque than before. Let me turn my lights off because there's a car pulling up next to me and I have a GoPro strapped to my head, so I don't want to look like a retard. But yeah, so we're gonna do a couple quick pulls. Before this car, in first it would never really hook, but in second it would kind of hook, but it depends on how hard you dump the clutch, it'll start spinning. But now in second it hooks, right? You go into second, it hooks. As soon as you start climbing up on the RPMs, you get to like 5,000 RPM, it just starts breaking the rear wheels loose. So I know it made a difference in torque, I know that for sure. Definitely feels different than before, that's for sure. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the way it sounds. I don't know. But I didn't do this for sound. Whoa! Yeah, it never used to chirp in third gear before, and it actually did it for a while. And I do have actually pretty grippy tires in the back right now. I have Michelin Pilot Super Sports on there. So I don't have my drift wheels on there right now, so they actually have a good amount of grip. I can't imagine what they'll do with my drift wheels on there. I feel bad for my transmission and differential.